Hey everyone, and welcome back to the official Valorant tier list by SkillCapped.com. With patch 5.01's release, we saw a few agent changes to Phoenix, Yoru, and Kayo, as well as some more indirect nerfs to Killjoy. One more important thing that happened this patch though, that's probably plaguing most of your ranked games, is Pearl was officially added to the competitive map pool. Personally, here at SkillCapped, we're rejoicing because this means we don't have to play on Fracture nearly as much. But as always, you're definitely prone to lose some elo as everyone's slowly just figuring out the map. Remember though, there's still time to get ahead of the competition, so if you really want to master the map, be sure to head on over to skillcapped.com and check out our Pearl course available now. Starting out with our S tier though, not much has changed here yet. Many were expecting some chamber nerfs this patch, but unfortunately we didn't see anything of the sort. However, we did end up catching some KO buffs this patch. Now when reviving KO, enemies won't be able to tell if you've pulled off or not, as they'll only hear the initial audio sound. This is kind of nice, as it allows you to play mind games similar as when you would tap the spike during a post plant. One change that may be slightly a little bit more relevant is they also decrease the size of his molly, but now allow it to hit targets through walls. This is to keep his molly consistent with other mollies in the game, since basically players would be in the zone diameter but not getting hit by it before. This specific change, as you saw in the intro, can actually allow KO to destroy Killjoy's ultimate through walls. To be entirely honest, KO was already super strong, and Killjoy isn't played too often anyway, so this change doesn't impact his power level too much, but it is, at the very least, something interesting to know. As for the other two agents in S tier, I mean, it's nothing new. Chamber and Jett are still very strong. To be entirely honest, KO was already super strong, and Killjoy isn't played too often anyway, so this change doesn't impact his power level too much, but it is, at the very least, something interesting to know. Moving on to our A tier, things are getting shaken up just a little bit this time around. Raze is still topping the charts and honestly could maybe even be pushed into S tier. She's easily one of the most picked duelists in the game and provides so much to a team. Like honestly, if any of you are Reyna mains, I highly recommend you just start picking Raze. She's infinitely more valuable to have on any team. The interesting agent who's following Raze up in our list right now though is actually Yoru. Yoru's getting a ton of unjustified hate, and after seeing so many professional players abusing this agent in their solo queue matches, there's really no way we could keep pretending like this agent's weak. He's been strong for months, honestly, and just got buffed last patch. If any of you recall getting shortied by Yoru before his rework, you're probably shaking in your boots right now. Riot's officially buffed Yoru's ultimate duration, as well as reduced the amount of time it takes for him to pull out his weapon after exiting his ult. And I hope you guys are ready, because we're slowly creeping into a world where Yoru isn't just good, Yoru could very well be overpowered. Speaking of good agents though, let's talk about our other favorite initiators in the game right now. Fade and Sky are still rocking in our A tier, as both of these agents just provided so much utility and value to a team. These agents are both phenomenal for matchmaking and can easily get things accomplished by themselves if they need to, utilizing their incredible info gathering capabilities. Sky has been one of my personal favorites after the Sova drone nerfs, just because her dog actually is able to clear areas without having to push up so far. If you guys have played Sova at all since his nerfs, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's why if you're a Sova main and you haven't tried Sky or Fade recently, I really recommend giving them a shot. You'll thank me later. Moving on to some of our controllers, we got a little flack last time for most of them being pretty low rated. Controllers are super necessary for a team. Every team needs a controller, but quite frankly, the amount of impact you can have on as an individual playing controller and matchmaking is fairly limited. How often are you getting hard stomped by the enemy Viper? Not very frequently. She's just not that type of agent. As Viper, your plays you lock down B side and guarantee they'll never go B. Then you watch your team lose the game from across the map. And not to mention, if you try to do literally anything different on Viper, you're absolutely torn to shreds by your own teammates. Your role on Viper is quite literally to play the exact same side, do the exact same wall, and use the exact same mollies every single round until the game is over. Don't get us wrong, we're placing Viper A tier, as she's a super necessary agent to play on many maps, but her power level feels very reliant on your teammates right now, which isn't great for matchmaking. Omen's also finding himself slightly below Viper. Depending on the map, his power level's actually a bit lower than Viper's, but he actually makes up for this with his mobility. Omen actually has quite a bit of playmaking potential, which can be super important for carrying games and matchmaking. Overall though, controllers are in a bit of a weird spot. You gotta have them, but nobody really wants to play them. Now, moving on to somebody maybe you do want to play though. Heading off our B tier, Phoenix. This one's a bit weird since he only received a few buffs in this patch, but we honestly believe Phoenix is just going to knock Reyna right out of the meta for matchmaking. Everyone seems to think Reyna is this agent that you can make constant mistakes with and just get away with it. Phoenix is quite literally an agent that you can ult on every 2 to 3 rounds and full sprint into sight regardless of who's there. With the flash buffs and some other minor changes to his wall and ultimate, you're going to be seeing a lot more Phoenix, and it's going to be really annoying. Because of how absent he's been in the meta, people seem to forget how obnoxious it is to have to deal with Phoenix ultimate. If you want to run it down without thinking right now, this is your chance to do it. Next on our B tier though, an agent we mentioned a bit before, Sova, is finding himself dropping a bit. This once S-tier agent has slowly just been phased out after his nerfs a few months ago. You can still play Sova. His kit is still pretty good, but it just doesn't get the same value it used to. He's still a pretty good solo queue agent regardless though, as he can gather info really safely, which helps you make quick decisions and keep yourself safe. But Fade and Sky can also do the same thing right now, so there's really not much of a reason to play Sova. One more initiator that finds himself in the B tier though is actually Breach. Breach is super strong and seen frequently in pro play, but to be entirely honest, in matchmaking, he requires your teammates to do things, which you just can't always bank on. The other initiators gather info, which you can use yourself, but Breach doesn't really gather info, so matchmaking, he just kind of sucks in it. Something I do want to mention though before we move on is that when we list agents lower on this tier list, we're not saying they're bad. Breach can be really awesome in the right hands, and if you're climbing playing Breach, keep playing him. We just don't think he's as versatile for matchmaking as other agents. And this game isn't League of Legends, and agent power levels aren't as drastic as people think. All agents are easily playable, all the way to Radiant if you know what you're doing. One agent many of you critiqued in our previous tier list is actually Neon. Neon sees a lot of pro play right now and actually isn't a horrible pick. Due to her speed, she can really easily snowball a game in the right hands, but she's also equally capable of just running into her death if she isn't paired with the proper utility. That's why Neon doesn't find herself higher than the B tier this time around. She's super strong, but not as consistent to play as some of the other duelists. Another agent that's actually exceptionally strong that you're seeing a bit right now in Copenhagen is Astra. Astra is actually really strong for similar reasons that Breach is. Astra's great at helping her team take space, blocking off sidelines, and crowd controlling multiple areas at once. But similar to Breach, that extra level of communication required isn't really worth it in matchmaking. You're probably just better off playing Omen. Let's keep moving on though to round out our list. Sage is doing pretty good right now. She'll always be a strong agent. She basically can change how a map is played entirely, which is super cool. And picking Sage always comes at a sacrifice though. And since Chamber's being run in every single team comp right now, oftentimes she leaves you lacking in other areas. For what it's worth, she's our second highest rated Sentinel right now, but overall, there's never really a need for Sage. Next on our list is going to be Brimstone. He kind of had this phase, but slowly fizzled out. People still pick Brim, but he's not really anything special right now. Maybe he'll be nice to have around to combine with Phoenix's ult though, since his stim beacon allows Phoenix to get more distance, but overall that doesn't really push the agent that much higher on our tier list. Moving on to an agent we mentioned at the beginning of this video, Killjoy received a small indirect nerf this patch with the Kayo changes. Killjoy wasn't played a bunch before this patch, but she's only going to be played less now. There was a time period where only a few abilities destroyed Killjoy's ultimate, but nowadays it feels like quite literally every agent has something to deal with it, which is kind of a bummer. Listen, I know we have a lot of Killjoy mains in the comments though, so let me just quickly go through a list of every ability that counters her ultimate. Breach Aftershock, Brimstone ultimate, Sova Shock Darts, Sova Ultimate, Reyna Dismiss, Chamber Teleport, Omen Ultimate, Raze Satchels, Raze Grenade, Raze Ultimate, Yoru Teleport, KO Molly, also in a way, KO's Knife and Ultimate. This isn't even counting abilities that can be used to stall, so you can't push in off Killjoy ultimate such as Sage Slows, Phoenix Molly, etc. Beyond this, the ultimate also just has a ton of counterplay by just taking more space so Killjoy can't use it. Ascent is supposed to be Killjoy's best map, but if you lose tree control, you can't even use your ultimate. Guys, Killjoy kinda sucks. We're not quite sure what Riot's gonna do with Sentinels. They're in a horrible place right now, but hopefully they'll do something. Finally, for our B tier though, we have Reyna. Reyna has pretty good carry potential in lower elos, but doesn't fare too well in higher level play. Pick her at your own discretion. That debate's pretty worn out by now though, so we're just gonna move on. Finally, for our king of the C tier, it's your boy Cypher. Cypher runs into pretty much the same issue as Killjoy, where basically every agent counters him. When all your tripwires get broken constantly, he's just not too effective to play. He can get some stuff accomplished on him, but if you're picking Cypher over Chamber and matchmaking, you're gonna have a much harder time.
Remember though, if you're really looking to improve at Valorant, then you've got to check out SkillCapped.com. Over on the site, we have hundreds of hours of exclusive content designed to take your game to the next level. It's also all backed by our rank improvement guarantee, meaning if you don't improve while actively using our service, you'll get your money back, no questions asked. We do this because our service works, and if it doesn't work, you shouldn't pay. So, what are you waiting for? Get started on your climb at SkillCapped.com, link in the description below.
That's going to do it for this week's tier list, though. Be sure to let us know in the comments what you guys think. Do you agree with our placements? We'd love to hear your feedback.